New changes coming to the real estate industry. I've heard a little bit about it, but maybe you want to fill us in on that.
So this is something buyers should be aware of. So the date that these go into effect is Saturday, August 17th, which is this Saturday here. On that date and forward, one of the big changes that buyers are
The one, the only, the realtor of the year, John Brody. How you doing, man?
Good.
You like that intro?
Yeah.
Realtor of the year.
I was really happy to win that one. It's different than the production awards and stuff.
Yep.
You have to be it's decided on by my peers. So
okay.
across all offices. So it's for the entire Grand Forks Area Association of Realtors.
Nice.
It's pretty awesome.
So do you win like $1 million a trip and luggage?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, I just got a nice plaque with my name on it. But,
Okay. Do you hang that in your office? I don't know if you have an office. Do you put it on a
yeah.
shelf in your house? What do you do with it?
I have a bookcase in my office at our office with my little awards and stuff.
Sure.
Yeah.
Now,
That's where it's sitting.
are you the kind of guy that'll like walk around with it, holding onto it in the office, and like happen to see Adam and go, "Yeah, look what I got."
No.
Because he'd probably do it to you.
Oh no, he's fine.
I know.
I wouldn't do that. I'm not gonna parade it around. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a lot of it has to do with involvement and giving back to the Association of Realtors and
Sure.
stuff like that. So it's not like the top producer in all of Grand Forks award. It's different than that. It's kind of voted on by my peers.
Sure, it's kind of like an all-around thing.
Yep,
Just maybe
exactly.
not. I don't know. I might be wrong, but maybe you didn't sell the most houses.
I didn't sell the most houses in Grand Forks.
But there's
no.
more to it than that.
There's more to this award than that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. It's like the man of the year.
Yeah, there you go.
In the realty world of Grand
Yeah.
Forks. There
Walter
you go.
Payton.
There you go. The
Yeah.
Walter Payton Award.
Yeah.
New changes coming to the real estate industry. I've heard a little bit about it, but maybe
Yeah.
you want to fill us in on that.
So this is something buyers should be aware of. So the date that these go into effect is Saturday, August 17th, which is this Saturday here. On that date and forward, one of the big changes that buyers are going to need to know about right away is that no longer are agents just going to be able to go and show you a property if you have no agreement in place.
Okay.
So you actually do need to sign an agreement between buyer and agent detailing the nature of your agreement, basically, how the buyer agent's going to get paid. The whole point here is more transparency and making sure that the buyer understands how their agent is getting paid. So you have to sign that with your agent before you're going to show any houses. It can be an exclusive agreement, it can be a non-exclusive agreement, but it has to be signed before they can let you in the door. Whereas before, many agents their phone would ring, somebody would say, "Hey, can I go look at this listing, in an hour?" And the agent would be like, "Yeah, I'll meet you over there." No agreement in place signed, first time ever talking to them. That is a thing of the past now.
Why?
It was part of this, I don't know if I could really understand well enough. I don't know how much sense it really makes. But buyer agency hasn't been a thing in all 50 states.
Yep.
North Dakota's had it since the 80s. So we've been we've had buyer representation forms for a very long time. Whenever we represent a buyer, we sign it, but we don't always necessarily sign it at the first contact before we show them their first house.
Okay.
Right. So now it's getting implemented nationwide where buyer agency is required. And this is just how they decide to do it, that you should have that agreement in place before you show them any houses. So there's not any disputes about, how the agent gets paid. The buyers, what was maybe an issue before is some agents weren't explaining to the buyer how they were being paid a commission. The way it works is if you're a buyer and I'm working with you, you're not paying, in most cases, you aren't the one who pays for the commission out of your pocket at closing. Like you don't pay a commission on top of your down payment and your closing costs. In most cases, the way it's been is the seller pays their listing agent out of their proceeds at closing, and they also pay for the buyer agent out of their proceeds at closing. Now, of course, the proceeds, the money that they're getting at closing is coming from the buyer. So the buyer was kind of essentially paying for part of it anyway.
Okay.
But they were able to, mortgage it over 30 years because it was a part of their entire loan amount. And there was some confusion. Maybe agents may not have been explaining well enough to buyers that they do get paid on this, even though it's not the buyer who, pays them cash at closing. There's just for more transparency. Honestly, in my opinion, I think it's kind of a good thing for our industry because buyers, I think part of the reason buyers have felt underserved and that the buyer's agents are overpaid is because they haven't put the same amount of effort and research into picking their buyer agent.
Yep.
They just go with the first person who can show them a house. And that could be a complete rookie. It could be somebody who's
Sure.
1 foot in, 1 foot out of the business. I hope that this gets buyers to do their research, read reviews, get recommendations from friends and family, and try to pick as good of a buyer agent as you can and then sign up with them, establish that exclusive relationship where now they're your agent. I hope that that's the direction that it leads the industry.
Now, in my opinion, and correct me if I'm wrong, John, this is all probably started because of agents that, well, let's face it, aren't as good.
Yeah.
Probably don't sell as many houses. But here's the thing. Now, they're going to have to start crossing their X's and O's like you guys always have.
Yeah.
So in my opinion, this is going to be brought up. And again, correct me, this is brought up by people who probably aren't cutting the mustard like some of you guys do, you guys and girls. And they're going to end up having to do more work now. And they're still probably not going to cut the mustard,
or they're going to get run out of the buess if hopefully the consumer is being more diligent about who they're hiring and not just winding up with somebody by mistake who turns out not to be good. Like I've said this a number of times. There's agents that if they're not very good at their job, they're very overpaid for the value they're delivering.
Right.
But the really good agents that do the majority of the business are worth every penny that they're paid and more because they offer so much value, so much expertise. They save the buyer lots of money and help them make better decisions. It's endless the number of reasons that really good agents earn their commission that they make. But it's true that some of the poor agents who aren't as good, I mean, they get paid a lot for not doing very much if they do the absolute bare minimum.
So for a realty expert like you, is this really a big change on how you go about your day-to-day business, or is it not that big of a change?
Not that big of a change for me personally. It's some stuff that we have to figure out on an association level, on an office level, new forms that we have to get familiar with. But it's additional disclosure, so it's more transparency to the consumer, which I think is good.
Sure. Nothing to hide.
Yeah, nothing to hide, and just making sure good agents explain things well to their clients. They're able to articulate
because they know what they're talking about. Yeah.
And they want the transparency because they want that. They're good at explaining and getting the idea across to people so that the people understand it, the clients understand it. So maybe this will force that a little bit more for the people who weren't holding up their end of the bargain, maybe.
Sure.
It's hard to know what exactly is going to happen. The other thing that's kind of inconvenient about this settlement is now real estate buyer agent commissions are no longer going to be allowed to be listed in the MLS.
Oh.
So they will be allowed to be put on company websites. So instead of, for agents to be able to see that, an agent is going to show one of my listings and I'm paying X amount out to the buyer agent, but they're not going to find that on the MLS. They have to go to our website in order to be able to track that listing down and find out how much is being paid. And in my opinion, paying out a strong buyer agent commission is a really strong, marketing tactic because you're incentivizing the agents in town to go and show and sell your listing by offering a paycheck at the end of it for them, right?
Well, I know how competitive the real estate industry can be.
Yeah.
And now, is this just a way for people to go, they're hiding it? Now they're hiding some of the information because now we got to dig into it a little bit more.
No, I think in general, there will be more transparency to the consumer, personally. This part doesn't make a whole lot of sense because it's kind of like going back in time where it's just going to be more work for administrative people at the offices. And it's less convenient for the agents. For the consumer, it probably doesn't make much of a difference. You do have to find out what commission is being paid out to the buyer side because the thing is, if let's say you agreed on X percent that you're going to be paid in that buyer agreement, you agree on what percentage you're going to be paid out. And let's say 90% of the listings in the MLS pay that commission out to the buyers. But if they want to look at one of the listings that pays a lower commission out, it means they'd be responsible for the difference. So you do have to find out what the commission is going to be to see if the buyer would have to have an additional out-of-pocket expense at closing and, talk to your buyer about that and make sure they know that going in.
So now, do you with the Berkshire, the team at Berkshire Hathaway, do you guys have a big gathering, a big meeting, and go over all of this stuff, or do they say, "Hey, look, change is coming. You need to learn this stuff," or is it kind of both?
I'd say it's both. I mean, agents do have to make an effort to get up to
sure.
speed on this stuff, and at every office in town, there's agents who aren't around as much because they might.
Well, they're not full time.
They might not be full time. So those people need to really get a grasp on this to avoid getting in trouble.
Sure. So when it's all said and done, John, does this really change anything for a buyer or seller? If I want to sell my house and I call you, John Brodin, does it change things the way it goes for me?
Some of it's to be determined because commissions have always been negotiable. In order to list your property in the MLS, up until Saturday, you had to offer at least some buyer agent compensation. It had to be listed in the MLS. It could be $1. So
Okay.
they could essentially pay $1 out
Sure.
as a buyer agent commission, which is, obviously far less than what most of the listings are paying out. So that part hasn't changed very much. We still don't see that very often. It's extremely rare that you see a really low buyer agent commission in the MLS. If that changes where it becomes more common and it becomes more common for buyers to be responsible for paying their own buyer agent commission, that would be a massive change. But I don't think that's in the best interest of the consumer, either the buyer, because that's way more cash out of pocket they need to come up with instead of being able to finance it. And therefore also the seller, because the seller has just whittled down their buyer pool very small to the people who can afford to pay that out of pocket, or to the very small percentage of people who don't want to work with a buyer's agent. I think it's like almost 90% of buyers are using a buyer's agent or will only use a buyer's agent when they do buy. The majority of the qualified buyers who are serious, going to be buying a house, they have an agent or they're getting an agent. So I don't see that change happening. I'd be surprised if it happened, but if that did happen, that would really kind of change the way real estate is done in the U.S. The biggest change that for sure is going to be the case, though, is what I mentioned for home buyers, where they are going to need to get that agreement signed with an agent before that agent
Sure.
can show them their first house.
Okay.
Which that's going to be the biggest change for what people are probably used to.
Over the years, we've been doing these Berkshire Hathaway podcasts. I thought I was starting to finally catch on and learn a bunch of stuff, and now you throw this at me.
Hey, I'm in the same boat as you. Yeah.
Oh, man. How does somebody get a hold of realty expert John Brodin?
Yeah, so my cell phone number is 701-213-5428. You can call or text me on that number. Be happy to answer questions you have. If you want to become a client, hit me up and I can help you through the process.
You're not a 9 to 5 guy either, are you?
Nope, my phone's always on. Text me, whatever. I'll get back to you. Call me. My phone's always on me. So.
All right, there you go. John Brodin, realty expert with Berkshire Hathaway. And that is your Berkshire Hathaway bi-weekly podcast, the Wednesday edition. John will be back again on Friday morning at 10. Till then, have yourself a great couple of days, everybody.